Imagine stepping into a frozen wasteland where the cold is so brutal it freezes your very thoughts, and where even the smallest mistake could bury you beneath tons of snow. Now imagine attempting that journey inside machines so tiny they could be mistaken for toys. Yet these vehicles were no toys, they were built for real combat missions in some of the harshest environments on the planet. These compact machines bent the rules of physics, engineering, and survival itself. The strangest part? Almost no one knows they ever existed. You won't find them in Hollywood war epics or massive military parades. Still, they carried troops, gear, and vital supplies across snowy woods, blocked paths, and endless ice fields. Have you ever seen a tank the size of a motorcycle? Or a snow craft small enough to ride in a helicopter yet strong enough to haul soldiers through Arctic silence? You're about to discover the smallest military snow vehicles you've probably never heard of. Stick with me until the end because the last one looks straight out of science fiction, yet it fought in real battles. And here's the kicker, it's so old most of you weren't alive when it was made. But if you were, let me know in the comments, I want to hear who lived through that era. Let's jump in. T-20 Komolets. One of the smallest troop carriers the Soviet Union ever fielded before World War II, the T-20 Komsomolets was a machine built for versatility in the harshest conditions. Designed in the late 1930s, it was meant to tow light artillery and move gun crews with their ammunition across rough ground. Barely 3.5 meters long and 1.8 meters wide, it could slip through dense forests, crawl through rubble-strewn villages, and operate in terrain where bigger vehicles would bog down or fail entirely. Its 2.6L four-cylinder gasoline engine produced about 50 horsepower, but raw power wasn't the secret. What made it shine was its balance of weight, traction, and compact design. Light enough not to sink in snow, small enough to hide in the woods, and sturdy enough to be repositioned quickly. The armored front cab seated just 2 crew, the driver and commander, while an open rear compartment carried up to 6 soldiers sitting side by side, exposed but ready to jump out at a moment's notice. In effect, it was an early armored personnel carrier, small, fast, and surprisingly stealthy. In winter operations on the Eastern Front, the T-20 earned its place by dragging anti-tank guns through snow, hauling ammunition, and keeping supply lines alive when trucks simply froze or failed. Few people know one of its more unusual roles. Some T-20s were deliberately used as bait. Their small size made them perfect decoys, luring enemy tanks into ambush zones where hidden Soviet artillery could strike. Even its name carried symbolism. Komsomolets came from the Communist Youth Organization, representing a new generation of soldiers and machines. It was practical, compact, and built to fight in the worst conditions. Today, surviving examples are rare, and when people see one in person, the most shocking thing is its size or lack of it. You expect a troop carrier to be big and imposing. This one? Tight, efficient, and purpose-built. And if you thought that was small, wait until you see the American answer. During World War II, the U.S. experimented with a snow vehicle so compact it looked more like a track sled than a war machine. The Allis-Chalmers M7. Almost no one has heard of it, but it was born from necessity, and its design was as clever as it was compact. Developed in the 1940s, the M7 was a lightweight transport vehicle created specifically for snow, swamp, and mud. Just 3.2 meters long and 1.6 meters wide, it was one of the tiniest utility vehicles of the war. It wasn't built for combat but for logistics, moving light cargo, equipment, and troops where trucks or jeeps couldn't go, particularly in snowbound regions like Northern Europe or Alaska. A 2.4L four-cylinder engine delivered about 45 horsepower, which sounds minimal, but combined with its sub-2-ton weight it was enough to glide across deep snow without sinking. Rubber tracks gave it grip, while a simple, rugged suspension kept it moving through uneven terrain without constant breakdowns. Its biggest strength? Portability. The M7 was so small it could be hoisted onto ships by crane, packed into small aircraft, or shipped by rail alongside other supplies. It was a bring-it-anywhere machine. And here's the part that fits our theme perfectly. U.S. troops sometimes use the M7 as a stealth scout vehicle on Arctic patrols. Creeping slowly across snow under cover of night, its low profile and near-silent movement often slipped right past enemy sentries. For something that small, it offered massive tactical value. Soldiers could fit it with radios, heaters, or custom cabins, turning it into a rolling toolbox on tracks. But despite its usefulness, the M7 is rarely mentioned in war documentaries or history books. It's almost invisible, just like it was designed to be. And if you thought that one was quiet and discreet, the next vehicle is iconic. You've probably seen it in war films without even realizing what it was: a machine that looks like a cross between a jeep and a snow sled, built from the ground up for frozen battlefields. Weasel 29. With a name like Weasel, you already expect something small, nimble, and impossible to pin down. And that's exactly what the M29 Weasel delivered. Built by the United States during World War II, this compact tracked machine became synonymous with extreme mobility across snow, mud, and ice. It wasn't big, it wasn't flashy, but it could go places no other vehicle dared. And when we say small, we mean really small. The Weasel measured just 3.6 meters long and barely 1.5 meters wide. Its compact frame allowed it to slip through narrow forests, crawl across makeshift wooden bridges, and even glide over thin ice without breaking through, thanks to its light chassis and wide, high flotation tracks. Under its hood sat a 2.2-liter six-cylinder engine pushing about 54 horsepower. Not impressive on paper, but when paired with a total weight of less than 1.5 tons, it became a powerhouse of mobility. The Weasel wasn't built to race, it was built to survive, adapt, and move in silence where others got stuck. Originally commissioned for operations in the frozen mountains of Norway, the M29 had to meet strict demands: stealth, snow handling, and compactness. It had to be light enough to be airlifted by cable or dropped from gliders directly with airborne troops. And that's exactly what it became: a vehicle that could follow paratroopers anywhere, even into the most remote combat zones. On the battlefield, the Weasel proved itself as a jack of all trades. It carried soldiers into snowy fronts, hauled ammunition through mud, transported radios and communication gear, evacuated the wounded, and even crept ahead as a scout vehicle in both European and Pacific theaters. Its quiet engine and low profile made it perfect for infiltration missions, moving under the cover of night where tanks or jeeps couldn't go without drawing attention. Here's where its story gets even more fascinating. After the war, the M29 Weasel became one of the first military vehicles adapted for polar research. Modified versions were sent to Antarctica, carrying scientists and supplies through brutal conditions where temperatures could kill both man and machine. What started as a snow jeep for war turned into a pioneer of science, bridging the worlds of combat and exploration. Visually, the Weasel was deceptive. Its open, low-slung frame almost looked fragile, like it could snap in two. But those broad tracks and minimalist design gave it unmatched off-road bite. It wasn't designed to impress the eye, it was designed to conquer the elements. Today, the M29 Weasel is a prized collector's item in museums and even finds use in mountainous regions where its snow-handling abilities remain unmatched. For many, it has earned the title of legend. A small machine that redefined what mobility meant in war. And yet, if you thought the Weasel was unusual, you haven't seen anything yet. Because up next comes one of the strangest vehicles of the entire Second World War, a bizarre half-breed between motorcycle and tank. A machine so small it could fit inside a 1940s transport plane. Kentrad SD-KFC-2. The name might twist your tongue, but the look? Absolutely unforgettable. The Kettenkrad SD-KFC-2, created by Nazi Germany in the 1940s, remains one of the strangest and most brilliantly engineered compact military vehicles ever built. At first glance, you'd swear it was just a motorcycle on steroids, and in many ways that's exactly what it was. A bizarre hybrid between a motorbike and a miniature tank, designed to squeeze through terrain where even the smallest trucks or jeeps would fail. How small are we talking? just 3 meters long and barely 85 centimeters wide. That's narrower than many household doors. The Kettenkrad could slip through forest trails, snake through rubble-strewn alleyways, crawl down makeshift trenches, and even move through underground corridors. It was so compact that it could be loaded inside a Junkers Ju-52 transport aircraft, something unheard of for a tracked military vehicle at the time. Its heart came straight out of civilian life, a 1.5-liter 4-cylinder Opel Olympia engine producing 36 horsepower. On paper, modest. But in practice, it was more than enough to push its 1,200-kilogram frame across snow, ice, gravel, and steep muddy slopes. The front wheel and handlebars gave it motorcycle-like handling, while the tracked rear section gave it the bite of a tank. It was both agile and unstoppable, a rare combination. The layout was simple but clever. The driver sat on a solo motorcycle-style seat, gripping handlebars just like on a bike. Behind him, room for 2 more passengers or light cargo. In some cases, soldiers hooked up small trailers to haul ammunition, supplies, or field equipment. Its utility didn't stop there on airfields. Kettenkrads were used to tow light aircraft and gliders across snow-covered runways where trucks would bog down. That demanded not just strength but precision, and the Kettenkrad delivered. But its greatest value lay in tactical mobility. These little machines were used for reconnaissance runs, courier missions, rapid troop insertions, and even evacuations of the wounded from areas inaccessible to ambulances. And here's a fact most people don't know: the Kettenkrad was the only tracked vehicle widely deployed like a motorcycle in snowy and mountainous terrain. Its reliability and ability to snake through paths that defeated even motorcycles made it indispensable on the Eastern Front. After the war, their usefulness didn't end. Surplus Kettenkrads found second lives among farmers, loggers, and forestry workers across rural Europe. When tractors and trucks failed on muddy trails or snowy slopes, the little track bike hybrids kept going. Even today, restored Kettenkrads can be seen at vintage rallies, proof of a machine that outlived the war it was built for. Visually, it looks like something ripped straight out of a science fiction movie, a low-slung tracked centipede with handlebars. But every part of its design served military logic: the narrow frame, the low center of gravity, the efficient drivetrain. Together, they made the Kettenkrad capable of climbing, crawling, and squeezing through places no other vehicle of its era could dream of. And yet, no matter how strange or fascinating this little track motorcycle was, nothing can prepare you for what's next. A vehicle even smaller. One that didn't even need a driver. Controlled remotely, packed with explosives, and designed to self-destruct on impact. Sounds like science fiction. It was real, and it fought in World War II. Goliath tank. The idea of an unmanned military vehicle, remotely guided and capable of carrying explosives with deadly precision, sounds like a weapon of the 21st century. Drones, autonomous robots, battlefield AI, we expect that today. But what if I told you this technology already existed back in 1942, right in the middle of World War II? Meet the Goliath tracked mine, better known as the Goliath tank, one of the smallest, strangest, and most terrifying armored vehicles ever deployed in combat. Its mission was brutally simple: carry a payload of explosives directly into enemy positions and detonate. No crew. No mercy. Just destruction on demand. And the size? Almost comical. At just 1.6 meters long, 60 centimeters wide, and barely half a meter tall, the Goliath was smaller than a shopping cart. Imagine a remote-controlled suitcase on tracks, except this suitcase could level bunkers, blow up tanks, or take out entire defensive positions. The early models ran on electric motors, while later versions switched to gasoline engines. Power ranged between 2 and 6 horsepower, not impressive by normal standards, but more than enough to push up to 90 kilograms of high explosive straight into a target. That blast was enough to cripple tanks, collapse fortifications, or tear through infantry strongholds. Its controls were equally ahead of their time. Operators guided the Goliath with a wired remote up to 800 meters away, steering it like a deadly toy car across mud, snow, rubble, and even frozen terrain. Once it reached the chosen spot, the operator flipped the switch and the world around it exploded. The Goliath saw action in multiple theaters: the beaches of Normandy, the Italian countryside, and the brutal landscapes of the Eastern Front. In snowy forests and mountainous regions, its small size and low profile made it a nightmare for enemy troops. It was so quiet, so small, that soldiers often didn't notice it until it was right under their feet. Allied troops gave it a chilling nickname, the Explosive Rat. And while its limitations were obvious, the cable could be cut, range was restricted, and its armor was paper-thin, the Goliath was decades ahead of its time. It was, in many ways, the grandfather of modern unmanned ground vehicles, laying the foundation for remote-controlled bomb disposal robots and today's combat drones. Few survived. Most Goliaths fulfilled their purpose by destroying themselves along with their targets. The handful that remain sit in museums, silent reminders of a time when military engineers were pushing the boundaries of imagination and desperation. So what does the Goliath teach us? That even the smallest machine can change the battlefield. That innovation doesn't always come in massive, steel-plated giants, but sometimes in a weapon the size of a suitcase that could terrify entire units. And with that, we close our journey through history's smallest military snow and off-road machines. From vehicles that looked like toys to unmanned suicide tanks, what you've just seen wasn't just a list, it was a showcase of miniature military engineering at its boldest. Because in the end, these machines weren't defined by their size. They were defined by their purpose, their adaptability, and the daring minds that built them. They carried troops, hauled supplies, rescued the stranded, infiltrated enemy lines, and, in the case of the Goliath, brought destruction like no soldier on foot could. Now I want to hear from you. Out of all these incredible little machines, which one blew your mind the most? If you had the chance to ride or even just see one of these up close, which would you choose? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into history's strangest war machines, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell. Because trust me, there are even more insane machines coming your way. Until next time.